Let's take a look at the Anglo-Norman period. King William I conquered England in 1066, and from here on begins the Anglo-Norman period. Now, William had subjugated the whole of England, and he was a very wise king. The first thing he did after he became king was to survey his land. He wanted to take stock of his possessions, and he wanted to know exactly who held how much land. And the king wanted to make sure that in case of a battle or any such thing, he would know exactly whom to call upon. And so that survey was conducted, and everything was housed in a book with a formidable name. The name of the book was the Domesday Book, which was prepared in 1067 AD. Now, we need not look at too much of the history after King William I. We can safely come to Henry II. So now we are looking at the history of England from 1154 to 1216 AD. 1154 to 1187 will be Henry II, the rule of Henry II, and after that, the rule of both his sons. The first was Richard I, who was very, very brave. He was known as Richard the Lion-Hearted. And the second son, King John, who was a useless king practically. Now, Henry II was a very able administrator. You need to keep him in mind because later on, when you do Chaucer's prologue to the Canterbury Tales, somewhere when you study the background of that text, you will be studying about St. Thomas A. Becket. And St. Thomas A. Becket was a bosom friend of this King Henry II. And King Henry II, in fact, got him murdered. He got St. Thomas A. Becket, the Archbishop of Canterbury, murdered. King Henry II was an able administrator, but he was a licentious man when it came to his personal life. So there were a lot of troubles between him and his wife and sons and things like that, but he was a very wise administrator. In fact, he was the one who introduced a proper legal system in England, and Henry II was succeeded by his son Richard the Lion-Hearted, and Henry II gave all his land to Richard the Lion-Hearted, and the other son John came to be known as John Lack Land because he didn't get any land. All the land was given to his elder brother Richard, and so John Lack Land. Now, John Lack Land, we are not doing Richard the Lion-Hearted in detail. He was away at crusades and things. John Lack Land, we need to know about. He was a useless king, that's another thing. But he was a king whom, the public did not like. The people didn't like, the courtiers didn't like, and they practically forced his hand. They made him sign the document which we know as the Magna Carta. Somewhere around 1214, 15, the Magna Carta was signed, and John died in 1216. Now, after that will come Henry III, who is as useless as his father. So now what is going to happen is Simon's Parliament, a parallel parliament, because the noblemen feel that the king is a useless king and everything that he does has to be monitored, and it has to be subjected to some checks. Somebody has to keep a watch on what is happening. And so we have a parallel parliament known as Simon's Parliament. And so the parliament will come to stay. So this is why we need to know about this particular period. Now, this period will see literature such as Layamon's Brut 1205, more than 30,000 lines, Layamon's Brut, and some other minor literature, most of which is of unknown authorship. So we can do the literature of this period separately in a short video.